Coming up on Look Today, well, a Crandall Public Library in Glens Falls earns a regional award for its contributions to the community. I've got details. And we got an update on the GE plant in Hudson Falls. More on that coming up. And Congresswoman Elise Stefanik opposes restrictions on alternative energy use. I've got those details. It's all ahead on Look Today. Welcome everyone, I'm Jay Hood Jackson, and this is Look Today. In tonight's program, I sit down with Cheryl Hage-Perez. Now, she's the Executive Director of the Saratoga County Rural Preservation Company, but we like to call it Vet Help. She's here to talk about new affordable housing for homeless vets in our community. I also sit down with Bridget Connolly. She's the Events Committee Chair for the Warrensburg Chamber of Commerce, and she's here to talk about the upcoming golf tournament on June 5th. Plus, we've got your weather for the Tri-North counties. But first, these headline stories. Well, in our lead story, the Crandall Public Library earned a major regional award. The library's project, Crandall Cares, It's Cold Out There, provided nearly 300 free scarves, pairs of mittens, and gloves and hats to the Glens Falls homeless community. Now, a little over a year ago, the library employees noticed a number of homeless people searching the library's lost and found selection for pieces of warm clothing. Now, with the help of the City of Glens Falls and volunteers, the Crandall Public Library provided donations and hung clothing from trees in the city park throughout all of last winter. Well, the award was given to the library this week by the Southern Adirondack Library System. We spoke to Kathy Naftali, the director of the library.
They knit hats and scarves. So throughout the winter, we collected it as a community. And in January, we put it out on some clotheslines, over 300 items for the community to come and pick as they needed. And it was a really great way to knit together creativity and giving.
I know Kathy, she's one of our favorite guests here on Look TV, so congratulations to her and everyone at the library. In other news, we have an update on a story we've been following for over a year. The demolition of one of the buildings at the GE plant in Hudson Falls will begin at the end of the month. Now, this is part of the long-term project of removing PCBs from the area. Well, the demolition will last 3 to 4 months as the building will be dismantled with no blasting or wrecking balls. Now, after the dismantling is complete, the reason is that the soil will be removed and replaced with new soil vegetation. Get rid of those PCBs. Now, GE will also clean a second capacitor plant, which is expected to be closed at the end of June. Well, switching from news to weather, today saw warm weather with the possibility of thunderstorms and rain showers later on. Let's see how the rest of the week is shaping up. For a more detailed look at our weather, we're going to head to the Glens Falls Weather Center for a look at our first forecast. Back to the news. Well, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik spoke in opposition to an amendment that would limit the ability of the Department of Defense to use alternative energy. Well, the issue was brought up during a floor debate for the National Defense Authorization Act. Stefanik discussed military bases such as Fort Drum, which is 100% energy independent. The Congresswoman spoke on the floor of the House.
I urge my colleagues to vote no on this amendment, which would have detrimental effects on alternative energy technologies that make our troops safer, increase combat effectiveness, and severely undercut programs like those at Fort Drum.
In other news, well, the Great Escape in Queensbury hosted Media Day. This year, the park is debuting a number of new attractions. The Grease Lightning is a single steel looping track where riders can experience full revolutions both forward and in reverse. Another ride will be featured called the New Revolution Virtual Reality Coaster. What happened to just merry-go-rounds? Also, paying tribute to Charles R. Wood, the newly renovated Western Sports Bar is going to be called the Charlie Saloon, and that's going to open this season as well. Well, up next, I sit down with Cheryl Hage-Perez. She's the executive director of the Saratoga County Rural Preservation Company. She's here to talk about new affordable housing for the homeless vets in Saratoga. Plus, I also sit down with Bridget Connolly. She's the events committee chair for the Warrenburg Chamber of Commerce, and she's here to talk about the upcoming golf tournament on June 5th at Cronin's. But first, you see news happening, you want to share a story idea. How about join us for an interview? Give us a call on the hotline. The number is 798-8000. Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of Look Today. Well, I got a couple of lookouts for tonight, and the first one goes to Deb and Buster, who own Lake George Baking Company. As many of you know, there's one location in Lake George Village, and there's a reason there are lines out the door. This is the real deal. But they also opened a second location, and the grand opening was today. It's right off of exit 19 in Queensbury, Lake George Baking Company. And knowing Deb and Buster, if you go in there and mention Look TV, they're going to give you a cannoli. Other one is, again, another personal one. It's Cheryl Paige Perez, the woman I interviewed tonight earlier in the program. She's another example of somebody who just feels so passionate about what she does. And in this case, it's to benefit all of the veterans in our community. She doesn't care how old they are, doesn't care what war it is, doesn't care what the situation is. She really helps support them and will go as far as just personally visiting them and setting them up in housing and all this stuff. You get the idea. Quite honestly, it's one of the rewards of running a station like this, is to get to know people like that. All right. Well, tonight on Look TV, it's sold. That's our call-in auction show with great estate jewelry and coins. Don't forget, tune in tomorrow night for the stories that matter to you. Good night, everyone.